The Dukes of Hazzard, despite all its flaws, was one of the most popular shows on television in the late 70s and early 80s. Sure, the Confederate flag was emblazoned on the General Lee, and many aspects of the show would be considered misogynistic by today's standards, but yesteryear's audiences weren't too concerned about such things. One of the main characters was Catherine Bach, who played Daisy Duke, and she was arguably one of the most significant reasons why the show was a success. To this day, Daisy Duke has lived on as the namesake of a rather particular article of clothing, but that's not Bach's only claim to fame. The 68-year-old actress managed to do something many of her contemporaries failed to accomplish. She kept her career going strong for decades after the show that transformed her into a star ended. Join Factsverse as we take a peek at some super saucy photos of the star, who will forever be best known by Daisy Duke. Humble beginnings. Bach was born in Cleveland, Ohio, March 1, 1954, to parents Norma Jean Kucera and Bernard Bachman. Her mother worked as an acupuncturist, and her father was a hard-working rancher. Eventually, Bach's family relocated to a ranch in South Dakota. After graduating high school, she majored in drama at UCLA, where she worked a side hustle making clothes for her friends and various theater groups. Her first acting role was in a stage production of The Sound of Music. Her first screen appearance was in a murder mystery film called The Midnight Man. Before she landed her role as Daisy Duke on The Dukes of Hazzard, Bach made appearances in films like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, which starred Clint Eastwood, and Hustle, which starred Catherine Deneuve and Burt Reynolds. In the former, Bach played the character Melody. It wasn't a major role, but the film did end up becoming the 17th highest-grossing film of 1974. It also fared well critically and holds an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. In the early 70s, despite having made a few appearances alongside some pretty big names, Bach was still an actress that relatively few people were familiar with. That would change when she landed the role of Daisy Duke. Before we tell you more about it, be sure to give this video a like and tap the join button to become a Factsverse member. You'll gain access to an exclusive library of risque content that YouTube doesn't want you to see. An overnight success story. Bach heard about the auditions for the Dukes of Hazzard through her first husband, David Shaw, whom she married in 1976. When she showed up, she learned from the producers they were looking for a Dolly Parton lookalike. At first, Bach was discouraged as she didn't seem to fit the bill, but as soon as she auditioned, she was hired on the spot. Now, everyone knows Daisy Duke's wardrobe was one of her biggest assets. After all, you don't get a clothing item named after you unless you look magnificent in it. Well, the producers of the show bounced around several costume ideas before finally arriving at the iconic look we all know and love. At first, they suggested Bach wear a white turtleneck, a pair of go-go boots, and a poodle skirt. Bach, however, had something else in mind. After asking if she could bring her own outfit to wear, the producers reluctantly gave in. She then showed up on set wearing a homemade t-shirt, a pair of skimpy denim cutoff shorts, and high heels. Initially, she had concerns over the appropriateness of the length of her cutoffs. She even refused to wear them in an early restaurant scene, thinking they'd be too revealing for such a setting. But after visiting the restaurant across the street from the shooting location, Bach found that the waitresses there all wore little miniskirts that actually matched the tablecloths. After seeing that, she no longer felt like her cutoffs would be a problem. On Dukes, Bach's character Daisy was the cousin of Bo and Luke, the two protagonists. The three of them, along with their uncle Jesse, lived on a farm on the outskirts of Hazzard County, Georgia. Although it was never explicitly mentioned in the show itself, early press materials suggested that Daisy's parents, as well as Bo and Luke's, were all tragically killed in a car crash. Even so, the show never really explained how they all ended up living with Uncle Jesse. Daisy often found herself involved in the Duke's famous car chases. During the first season, she drove a Plymouth Roadrunner, but from the second season on, she drove a Jeep. Daisy worked as a waitress at a local tavern called the Boar's Nest, which was owned by the greedy and villainous Boss Hogg. Her character's other talents included songwriting, singing, and journalism. Largely due to her undeniable sex appeal and girl-next-door charm, Daisy Duke became a fan-favorite character. As such, Catherine Bach quickly found herself famous in a way she never imagined. At the suggestion of the series producers, Bach posed in character as Daisy Duke for a poster, which went on to sell 5 million copies. Incidentally, the poster took on a life of its own, especially after First Lady Nancy Reagan took a liking to it after Bach was invited to visit the White House. One of Bach's former school teachers worked there, so she brought a copy of the poster with her to give him as a gift. While Bach was starring in The Dukes of Hazzard, the studio actually had her legs insured for $1 million. Post-Dukes. The Dukes of Hazzard ran from January 1979 to August of 1985. When it ended, Bach had roles in several low-profile films and TV shows. Between 1992 and 94, she starred in a Canadian family adventure drama series called African Skies. It was about two male teens, one black, one white, who lived in post-apartheid South Africa. Bach played Margot Dutton, the mother of the white boy, Rory Dutton. Throughout the series, Rory and his buddy Jam got into a series of adventures, often having to rely on each other to get out of sticky situations. The show ran for 2 seasons and received mostly positive feedback. Bach's next noteworthy credit was guest starring on Monk in 2006. She followed that up with a small cameo role in the 2010 comedy You Again. In 2012, Bach landed the second biggest role of her career when she was cast in the recurring role of Anita Lawson on the CBS daytime soap The Young and the Restless. She was in that role for 7 years. In 2019, she was asked by Fox News if she felt she'd been typecast after the Dukes of Hazzard. She replied saying that while every TV star goes through that to some degree, she's done her best to stay true to herself while giving her best work every time the cameras are rolling. She went on to say she didn't mind if people still call her Daisy Duke because she thinks it's cute and charming. Bach did end up reprising her role as Daisy on a few occasions. She first did voice work for the Dukes of Hazzard's Saturday morning cartoon, The Dukes, which was on the air for 2 seasons in 1983. She later appeared in the 1997 reunion movie The Dukes of Hazzard Reunion and its follow-up, The Dukes of Hazzard, Hazzard in Hollywood in 2000. In addition to acting, Bach has also started her own jewelry line, and she's opened a store called Daisy Country that sells jewelry, clothing, and memorabilia. It's located in Nashville and is partnered up with the nearby Dukes of Hazzard themed store. She loves being a mom. Catherine Bach's first marriage to David Shaw ended in divorce in 1982. She later got married for the second time in 1990 to an entertainment lawyer named Peter Lopez. She and Lopez have 2 daughters together, Sophia and Laura. Tragically, Lopez took his own life in 2010. In 2013, Bach gave an interview to the Huffington Post in which she talked about her late husband's suicide. It sounds like his death was entirely unexpected. Bach described their family as being happy and healthy. She said that Lopez knew what was important in life and did his best to instill that in their daughters. Likewise to Sophia and Laura, their dad meant everything to them. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Catherine Bach as Daisy Duke? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.